Hi, everyone. I hope everything is going well with you. In week 8, you will be taking a midterm exam. The midterm exam will test your knowledge of modern Chinese history from the early 19th century to the end of World War II, from the First Opium War in 1839 to the end of the Second Sino-Japanese War in 1945. Take it easy. It's not difficult. I already posted a study guide on Blackboard. You will take the exam on Blackboard. To help you prepare for the midterm exam, I create this review lecture. In this lecture, I will go over some important themes and concepts in modern China. I hope my review lecture will help you with the midterm exam. The midterm covers the lectures and the readings from week 1 to week 8, module 1 to module 8. You can get all readings, lectures, and other resources on Blackboard. Let me know if you have any questions. One of my teaching philosophy is that I do not expect you to remember all historical events. In particular, I want to train your skills. The midterm exam tests the knowledge of modern China. You do not need to remember all in details, but you should have an overview, a general overview of modern Chinese development. The knowledge itself will help you understand modern China more comprehensively and critically. So now let me share my slides. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions in the process of preparation. China in War and Revolution, midterm review. I think you should prepare with the study guide and have a general overview of modern China from the early 19th century. My suggestion is keep calm and study for the midterm. For the midterm exams, there are 3 types of questions. Well, one is multiple choice, 30 points, 15 questions, 2 points for each. For second one is code interpretation. There are 20 points. There are 4 questions, 5 points each. For the code ID, code interpretation, I give you a short primary document. You should use a few sentences to explain the document background and significance. The third type of question is short essay questions. There are 2 questions, 20 points each. This is a little longer. You need to write 2 to 3 paragraphs to answer a question. The final one, there's a bonus question for extra credit. 1 question, and it's a 3 point for this question. It's optional, of course. First, let me go over some important themes. All these themes and concepts, you can find them on the study guide. How to prepare for the midterm. Textbook, chapter 3 to 13. The textbook covers modern Chinese history from the 17th century, but this course starts from the Opium War. So we only, I'd only test you the knowledge from the Opium War, right? Lectures from week 1 to week 8. You please note that you will be you need to complete the midterm exam by the end of week 8. In week 8, we discuss China in World War II. So that will be tested in your midterm exam. So now let me go over some important themes and concepts. First, the Opium War and the Taiping Rebellion. For the Opium War, you should know that it started in 1839, but before the Opium War, you should know that what happened of China's foreign policy, the opium trade. why the British Empire decided to have opium trade with China was that emphasis. Before the opium trade, China limited foreign trade. The only way that China had foreign trade with the West was through the Canton, right, Canton system, and that created an imbalanced trade. So Western powers decided to smuggle opium to China, and Lin Zexu advised the Chinese emperor to ban opium trade, and as a result, the trade conflicts happened. The Opium War broke out in 1839. You should know that that is origin of Opium War, and China was defeated. The result was China signed unequal treaties. The first treaty China signed was the Treaty of Nanjing. You know that you should know the content of the treaty, and in particular, the extraterritoriality. That means all foreign nationals who committed a crime in China would not be tried by Chinese law, but by their home country's law, right? This is the first event, right, in the early 19th century that China faced a foreign pressure. But a few years later, China also suffered from domestic rebellion, that is the Taiping Rebellion. You should know that what is Taiping Rebellion? It is a peasant rebellion, but it's the bloodiest civil war in Chinese history. For the Taiping Rebellion, you should know who started it, Hong Xiuquan, its ideology, process. For the legacy is what it indicated the weakness of the Qing dynasty. And also you should note who defeated the Taiping Rebellion, not the government force, but provincial armies. Zheng Guofan, who was in charge of suppressing the Taiping Rebellion, he actually developed regional forces or provincial armies. They are not regular Qing troops. The Qing troops had two regular troops. One was a banner, another was a grain standard. But provincial armies defeated Taiping Rebellion. Also, you should know that Western power assisted the Qing court to fight against the Taiping. Westerners in Shanghai, they organized our victorious army to help the Qing government to defeat the Taiping Rebellion. After the Taiping Rebellion, and Chinese government realized it was necessary to start modernization movement. So you should know the self-strengthening movement. Another issue you should know that along with the Taiping Rebellion, China also suffered from Western invasion, the Second Sino-Japanese War. For the Second Sino-Japanese War, you should know that it was a war between China and France and England. So France and England, when they invaded China, they burned Yuanmingyuan, they destroyed the Summer Palace in Beijing. And then China signed the Treaty of Tianjin, right? And according to this treaty, opium China legalized opium. So China did not legalize opium after the first Opium War, but legalized opium trade after the Second Opium War, right? This was regulated in the Treaty of Tianjin. Also during this period, missionaries in large numbers came to China, right? They spread their religion, right? This picture shows Western missionaries in China. And then Chinese government decided to start modernization movement, self-strengthening movement. You should know that its background, process, and policies. There are a number of important figures during this period, like Ring Wing. He was the first Chinese students in America, and he actually encouraged Chinese government to send students abroad. What's the basic philosophy of the self-strengthening movement? 体用 formula. What is 体 foundation. Yun means function or practical. So China used Tiyun to determine its policies. Tiyun means Chinese learning is foundation and Western learning is for function. They used Western learning to serve Chinese learning. Also, Li Hongzhang was a modernizer, a reform-minded official. You should know, and I think you should also grasp the importance of the self-strengthening movement. Or do you think whether the movement was successful or a failure? How to evaluate the self-strengthening movement? And then, but some scholars argue that the self-strengthening movement failed because China was defeated in the First Sino-Japanese War. Now, a very important issue is the First Sino-Japanese War. The First Sino-Japanese War broke out in 1894, and China was defeated, and China signed unequal treaties with Japan. And you should know that process, it's not listed here, but you should know that the process of the First Sino-Japanese War from 1894 to 1895, and China signed the treaty with Japan, and China gave up Taiwan, and then Japan also obtained Manchuria, the Liaodong Peninsula, but the three countries intervened, the three countries rejected, and the tribal intervention prevented Japan from obtaining the Liaodong Peninsula. So that's it. But after the First Sino-Japanese War, Chinese intellectuals called for change. They realized the weakness of China, and it was a big shock for China to be defeated by Japan, right? And then the Chinese government started reforms, 100 Days Reform. This was advocated by Kang You-wei and Liang Qichao. Those are reform-minded intellectuals. And also during this period, after 1895, many Western powers came to China, right? They tried to divide China. And like this image shows the political situation that China was like a big pie and China was divided by Western power. This showed the Western imperialism in China. However, remember, China was not colonized. The whole China was not colonized. Actually, this benefited from the open door policy. The open door policy, that means all foreign countries, they have equal interest in China. Even in one country's sphere of interest, the sphere of interest, these countries' benefits would be shared with all other Western powers. So the open door policy indirectly helped maintain the China's sovereignty. So, but how the common people responded to the institution of Western power, Boxer Uprising is a very signal event from at the turn of the 20th century. You should know the Boxer Uprising, who were boxers, and the process. And then after the Boxer Uprising, Western powers, Eight Alliance, they sent troops to China, defeated Boxers, and then China was forced to sign the Boxer Protocol. As a result, China saw the rise of nationalism, and many revolutionary groups were formed, and then many revolutionaries, they called for revolution to overthrow the Qing dynasty. But in the last 10 years, the Qing dynasty tried to reform, to change this weak situation. They carried out the Manchu reform movement. You should know the policies, called new policies. But one most important policy was the Qing government abolished the civil service examination. That is the most radical policy of the late Qing. However, the Manchu reform movement did not save the Qing dynasty. A few years later, the revolution broke out. The 1911 revolution made the Qing dynasty to an end. For the 1911 revolution, you should know the process and then outcome. Outcome is that the first republic was established in China, Sun Yat-sen, he was revolutionary, and then he was regarded as a founding father of China's republic. However, Sun Yat-sen made a compromise to the former Qing general Yuan Shikai, and Yuan Shikai was in what became the first president of Republican China. But the 1911 revolution failed to resolve some fundamental problems. China was still in chaos. China still suffered from political decentralization. After Yuan Shikai died in 1915, China quickly entered the period of warlordism. That it means provincial military governors maintained their autonomy. They tried to enlarge their territory, and they did not. China was in chaos, and China was divided. Right? There was a very, very weak central government, but the local warlord dominated local society. But during this period, some positive things happened. That is China's enlightenment. Two movements, important. One is the New Culture movement. Another was the May 4th movement. You should know that what the New Culture movement abandoned Confucianism, embraced science, democracy. You should know the content. And New Youth was the journal, right? Is a platform for the intellectuals. You should know a number of intellectuals like Chen Duxiu, Lu Xun's article we read, and Bai Hua, or plain speaking movement, read in plain speaking language, not in classical Chinese. And Beijing University played a dominant role in the New Culture movement. Another event was the May 4th movement. What's the origin of the May 4th movement? Shandong issue. China joined the Allied forces in World War I, and China actually defeated, right, Germany. And after World War I, China demands the German interest in China back, right? Because Germany occupied Shandong province, and China wanted it back, but it was rejected by Western powers. And the Western powers in the post-war conference transferred the German interest in China to Japan. That as a result, students, workers, and they gathered in Beijing, and on the May 4th, this is the May 4th movement. You should evaluate the importance of the May 4th movement. What is May 4th? What's the political significance? What's the legacy? So it's very, very important. And in this process, the Chinese Communist Party was established by Chen Duxiu, Li Dazhao, and other communist Marxist intellectuals, and also benefited from the French work study group. Those young students who studied in France, and they came back and organized communist movement. And here, but now the situation is in late 1910s and early 1920s, China was in chaos. China was in World War period. And Sun Yat-sen in southern China, in Guangdong province, tried to unify China, right? He established the Wanpra Academy with the help of the Soviet Union. And also he reorganized the Nationalist Party, and the Nationalist Party formed alliance with the Chinese Communist Party. They formed the first United Front. And then Chiang Kai-shek, right, he commanded the Northern Expedition. The Northern Expedition quickly in 1927 unified China, and then the nationalist government was established in Nanjing, right here. However, after the Northern Expedition, both parties split. The Shanghai massacre broke out. Nationalist Party ordered to purge the Chinese Communist Party. So Chinese Communist Party tried to organize its military force, the Red Army, they retreated from Shanghai to Jiangxi province, and there they established the Jiangxi Soviet. However, they were defeated, and they started a long march, the very long way from Jiangxi province here all the way to southwestern China. So you can get all these details in my lectures and then the textbook. Finally, wartime China. This I'm not saying in details because in week 8, you will be learning wartime China. You should know a number of important events. Mukden incident in 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria, and then quickly next year in 1932, Manchukuo was established. Manchukuo was a Japanese colony, a puppet state. But Chiang Kai-shek rejected to fight back, but Chiang Kai-shek made the fight with the Chinese Communist Party as the priority. So later, military coup happened, the Xi'an incident, and Chiang Kai-shek was forced to sign to form the second united front with the Chinese Communist Party. In 1937, Marco Polo Bridge incident broke out. This is the first war between China and Japan, and Japan declared the war, and then China was invaded, right? And during the war, a lot of events. One is Nanjing Massacre, so you will discuss this week, and U.S. and China in World War II. China joined Allied forces after Pearl Harbor, and the U.S. sent troops and sent resources to China. But communists fought on the backfield, but communists built their revolutionary bases in Yan'an. But then most of battles with Japan were fought by the nationalist government. But the communists, they fought some, but they focused on building their revolutionary bases. Right? 8th Red Army is a communist troops in World War II. So this is an overview of the modern China during this period. I hope my review lecture is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to reading your midterm. Take it easy. It's not difficult. All right. Thank you.